welcome to Five Friday Feedback, viewer mailbag time. So today's header is kind of a doozy. Just got dumped, need to make quick money decisions.
Okay.
We've all been there, probably. Hopefully. I don't know. Maybe you've been lucky enough to where you haven't been dumped, but some of us are not that lucky. And that's all right. That's all right. Anyway, let's get past that. I'm going back. You can see me. You can see my mind just going into the past.
Trauma.
Pretty much. So, dear Chris and Dom, howdy. It's hard to know where to begin when life throws you a curveball as fast and as hard as this. After 12 years together, 12 years of building a shared life, my partner left. Just like that. No warning, no plan, and no closure. All the financial responsibilities you ask, it stayed with me. As if someone had tossed me the weight of both of our worlds and said, good luck. Every debt is in my name alone. Every bill, every payment, every piece of financial baggage collected together is now my burden. And yes, I know it sounds reckless, but 12 years with someone leads you to believe that you're a team. Who expects that they'll end up holding you? Who expects they'll end up holding the ball solo? True. 12 years is a long time. And I don't know if they were married or doesn't sound like, I feel like they would have mentioned divorce here. So I'm guessing
Yeah,
long
I feel
time
like they
partner.
would have mentioned. Yeah, when someone says the word partner, I think that typically doesn't mean like marriage, but I don't know. That just could be my perception of things. We'll see. We'll see if they say it.
See, so here's where I stand financially. I have a little bit of credit card debt, $40,000. The minimum payments are running me about $1,400 each month, and my credit score, it's taken so many hits it can barely stand anymore. I kind of like that. I love a little humor, and that's the way that I'm going to raise my kids. A little bit of humor in the pain. I love that.
You laugh through the tears.
You laugh with the tears. Yeah, exactly. So mortgage and home equity. This house we bought together has $139,000 left to pay on it, with a monthly payment of $1,800. Right, so it's pretty close to the credit card debt. The kicker: the house needs serious work, repairs I can't even begin to afford. So maybe something like maybe the roof or like the air conditioner. That's what I'm kind of imagining.
I would imagine that too. I think that they wouldn't mention if it was like, oh yeah, like the carpet's kind of like dirty and the floorboards. I don't love the trim. I think it's more like I don't have, like, I'm in Arizona and the AC's out. Like that's like a legitimate, or like I'm in Michigan and I don't have a heater.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like
I live in Oregon and there's a hole in my roof. Like that's gonna be an issue. Yeah, 100%. So I'm left thinking that the only other option might be to sell the house. From my rough math, it might cover my outstanding amount on the house. Might even scrape together a little bit of profit if I move fast enough. But this timeline is a bit tight. Okay. This market isn't exactly predictable where I live. So
let's go ahead and stop for a second.
Yeah. Let's talk on that for a second. What do you think on that? Timeline is tight. What does she mean?
This is the way I've always looked at it when it comes to things like this. When we're having an emotional response, the time to make huge life decisions is probably not in this moment. Like, you were just dumped by your partner of 12 years. Like, you're really going through it. You're stressed about money. We know as human beings, we don't make good decisions in these moments. So by you adding another layer of like, the timeline is tight. I don't know why the timeline is tight.
Yeah,
because the market moves. Is that what she's saying? Like, housing prices fluctuate. They fluctuate all the time. Like, it just kind of is what it is.
100%. Yeah. I have something else to say on that particularly, but I'm going to save it for the end, and I'm going to make just a little bit of note. Yeah, because I'm worried that timeline is in their head and not in their reality. So I got my note, and I'll say it after this. And then, of course, there's the rest, the everyday cost of just living to get by. Utilities, groceries, gas, it all adds up. Every dollar I spend feels like it's already spoken for, and a debt on top of a debt. My income is about $4,000 a month. The numbers, they simply don't add up. I need direction. What bills do I prioritize to get me through this month? How do I start taking back control of my financial mess that's spiraled so far out of my hands? If it comes down to it, I have a place to stay, but it's the rest of my life. The house, the debt, the future. That's what I need help saving for. Any guidance you can offer will be more than just financial advice, to be honest. Right now, it's a lifeline with gratitude. From blindsided and broke, but my spirit won't choke, got left with a mess, but I'll still rise nonetheless. Interesting. So total, we've got $40,000 in credit card debt. We've got $1,400. That's $1,400 a month paying towards that credit card. I'm guessing that's minimum payments.
Yeah, she said that specifically.
$1,800 in mortgage, and doesn't really mention the total cost of, like utilities and everything else. But she said that it's more than the $4,000 that she makes a month.
Yeah, I mean we're already have $3,200 taken out, so that only leaves $700 for the rest of her life.
Mm-hmm. 32.
$800 for the rest of her life. I wonder when she says at the end, I have a place to stay, but it's the rest of my life. I wonder which it comes down to it. If it comes to it, I have a place to stay. Does that mean that like if I sold the house, I have a place to stay, or like, at worst case scenario, at least I have a house? I don't know what she's saying there.
I don't really get what she's saying there either. I think it would be easier if she had an outside place to stay. Weirdly enough, because I know she owns a home, so it doesn't really make much sense. But I think
I'm going to operate under the assumption that she has a place she could move to, like maybe her parents, or like she has a place to go to if she was to sell the house. I think that's what she means by that sentence.
Yeah. I think, first off, I'm sorry for the situation. I know we got right to the numbers of it all. We're a finance podcast nonetheless, so it kind of makes sense. But it's a very human emotion that you're feeling. I mean, it's desperation, it's sadness, it's fear, it's scarcity, it's the why of it all, and the unanswered question, the trust that's been broken. And I'm sorry for that. It's unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. But even on your toughest days, you got through it, and you'll continue to get through it. As far as the finance side of the situation, and please stop me if I'm ever wrong, Chris, but I feel like she should sell the house. And part of my decision is because of the financial side, right? It would help her in her situation. But also, I mean, this is a major chapter change in her life. I mean, you went from building your life like, oh yeah, we're going to live the next maybe 30, 40, 50, 60 years together, to, wow, this person doesn't exist in my book anymore. And I think it's time for a little change of scenery. I think every turn in that house could be a memory, and it could be a very depressing place to stay.
Yeah.
I think it's the quicker you can move past the memories and start making new memories, the better. I might be biased. I might be wrong on that. But Chris, what do you think?
From a financial decision, I don't know if that's the right financial choice. I don't have enough data.
Yeah.
But from a human decision, from an emotional standpoint of where I stand, if my partner was to leave me, and we've been together for nearly 10 years, so we're not even, a little bit over 10 years, we're not even there where they are. I think it'd be very hard to continue to live in my house and like look at my bed, look at, the times that we had in the kitchen, all that stuff. So from an emotional standpoint, I definitely get it. So I think you have a good point there, and to consider, because the finances of keeping the house aren't great. Like they're pretty dismal. I don't know what major repairs means. I hope she's not saying like, oh, the cabinets are just not the right color. Like, I'm sure she's saying like, this is like some serious like risk. But I think maybe selling the house may be a good option. But there's definitely some more considerations we have to do before we could make a recommendation like that. Because we have a 5-paragraph letter here. Obviously, we're not going to be like, yeah, you should definitely do that. I know you had another point that you wrote down. What was that point that you wanted to make before I get into my kind of thoughts?
Yeah, sometimes when you're selling a house, right, obviously you're going to have real estate, realtor commissions, right? And that can really cut into your profits. One of the things you could look for is, I'm guessing you must have bought this house a while ago, a good amount ago, right? And I don't know what kind of interest rate you have on the house, But what you could do is reach out to an investor and be like, hey, look, some investors are going to lowball the heck out of you, right? That's not the investor you want, right? You're not you're not looking for the investor that is trying to lowball you, because that's not the deal you're trying to present. What I would present is more like, hey, like, I have this house. I had a major life change in my world, and I'm trying to move on, right? I've got $139,000 left on the mortgage, right? The house is worth, we'll say, what do you want to say? 200? Let's say 200,000.
Sure. Yeah.
We'll say
Oh, no,
200.
I would imagine that it's probably more than 200,000 because they've had it for 12 years and now there's 140 left.
Well, they've been together for 12 years. I don't know when they got it.
Okay,
so.
that's true. That's true. It's true.
So we'll just, for simple math, we'll say there's $140,000 on the house still left to pay, right? And 200,000 is worth the house, right? Maybe you got it a few years back when interest rates were low. You say, look, why don't you take over my mortgage, right? And you pay me the difference, you pay my closing costs, and you pay me a little bit extra, right? And a lot of investors nowadays, it's called like subject to, they'll jump on that, right? Because you just can't get an interest rate at the interest rate that you're at. So that's one of the options that I would probably look into if you don't want to go through like the whole selling process. And granted, it is a whole nother process in itself. But this is that's one of the things that kind of hit my brain right when I heard this letter. What else do you have for her, Chris?
So the first thing that I would need to know more information on is the state of your guys' relationship when you purchase the house. One thing that she said is that everything is in her name. So does that mean that your partner's name is not on the house at all? Like you bought the house and they just like, you said they bought it together, but everything's in her name. So that those are two contradictory statements, unless it's all bought in her name and the partner just gave her money for like the down payment and like didn't take any equity or anything like that, didn't hide that. So that's something I'm a little curious about to be able to make a determination. But what I would recommend, because I'm assuming that they're not married, I'm assuming they're just partners, I would probably, before we sell the house, seek legal guidance or advice to handle the debt responsibly. Because since they were together for 12 years, there may be some legal implications in regards to common law marriage. And common law marriage varies state by state. So I don't know what state you're in. So that could be something to think about too. But if you were in a common law marriage and you were to look for legal advice, there could constitute like a divorce attorney being necessary, because your partner that left may be financially responsible. Just because they're gone out of your life doesn't mean they just dipped off the face of the earth. I'm sure it's kind of ghosting you. I'm sure you still know where they are. It's not like that you're worried they're dead. They just left you and are somewhere else. If not, that'd be a very different letter. Like my partner is missing and I don't know what to do, but this is like, the police. They left me.
Don't call us.
You call the police. It'd be a very different. Don't send me a letter.
Don't send me a letter like, hey, fine guys, what should I do financially? It's like, you need to call a detective. You might be liable for this. My God.
Yeah, but my thought is like, so they're just like, they just left, but that doesn't mean they can't be found. But if there's common law marriage and they just leave you, they're still responsible for that house and they're still responsible for that debt. So it may be worth looking at a divorce attorney or something like that, depending on the state, to go and ask those questions to. And I know money's tight right now, but many divorce attorneys, they offer free initial consultations, or they'll do a low cost, like single hour advice. So that could help determine if your former partner holds any responsibility for the debt and the financial obligations, which could take a huge burden off you. Because right now you just said, I'm holding this ball solo. Well, it may not be that way. Just because you guys were never officially married, that doesn't mean in the nature of the law that they don't bear any responsibility just because their name isn't on the house. But again, you need an attorney. I don't know what state you're in. I don't know a lot of issues, but that's something you can think about. So after we do that, consult the attorney, see what's going on there. We need to start covering the essentials first. So I would focus on the most important things, which are your utilities, your food, your transportation, and just making sure that those things are taken care of. Obviously, we're not living lavishly. This is not the time to focus on your transportation and buying a new car. This is not the time to be going out to Ruth's Chris every night. This is not the time to, if you're in the AC, if you're in Arizona during the summer or in Michigan in the winter, you're not like, oh, you know what? It's so hot outside. I want the temperature to be 54 degrees inside my house. Like, it's going to require a little bit of suffering, unfortunately, to provide that like stability while you navigate this, let's call it a financial transition in life. So when it comes to selling the house, let's go ahead and evaluate some of these options. Yes, we can sell the house. And if you do so, you can go with Dominic's idea, which I really thought, I thought was a good idea. I didn't think of that, but we can contact a real estate agent to evaluate if the current market value is feasible for a quick sale. And they can tell you if they think that the market's going to continue to fluctuate or not. Because right now I feel like you saying I need to sell it now is an emotional decision, not a factual decision, which is going to really mean something, right?
I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you, man. I think the divorce attorney is an interesting play. I think that's a very interesting play. When someone's in your life that long, I mean, they've really embedded themselves in your life. And for them to walk out like that is just crazy in the first place.
Yeah.
That's just absolutely, it's unacceptable. Yeah, I think that's sound advice. I think that's sound advice, Chris.
Yeah. And I still have a little bit more. So ideally, if you do decide to sell the house and the real estate agent thinks it's a good time and whatnot, if this house does cover your mortgage balance, that's great. And any leftover profits you can take can be put towards your debt and or your emergency fund to be able to help to build up another new financial foundation. An alternative, though, to buying the house, to selling the house, though, could be that you consider renting the house maybe at market cost in order to cover the mortgage, or bring in a tenant that can live with you in the house, because there used to be two of you in there. Now there's only one. That could be a thing. Now I don't know how bad the cost of maintenance is and the cost of what the repairs need to be. I mean, I don't know if your house is like a crack house and we're trying to bring people in and like pay them, like charge them a mortgage. But if you're living there and you've been there for 12 or for multiple years, I'm sure it's well enough that people can live in it. So that could definitely be an option. You just have to really factor in the cost of the maintenance and maybe property management if that's something that you're considering doing.
Oh, 100%.
I know they said that if worse come to worse, they have a place to go. So I'm going to take that as they have the ability to consider to move in with friends or family, or they have some other sort of low cost option to move into if they were to sell the house. And I think that's a really good option because it could extremely reduce the financial load that you're feeling. Like $1,800 a month is going to the mortgage.
Yeah.
That $1,800 it would free up a lot.
Yeah. I mean, that's the difference between you making double payments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you do decide to go that option, like we really need to make sure that we're paying down the debt strategically, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, based on what you said, you're making $4,000 a month, and I'm sure that's after taxes. So you're probably making like 60, 70. I don't think it's worth declaring bankruptcy when your debt is less than your, normal annual income. Like, is it going to be tight for a year? Yeah, but you could pay it off in a year if you really got tight and like made it work out. So if you're going to go ahead and pay down the debt, I would look at maybe making a payment plan, a debt consolidation loan, talk with the creditors and see if they can reduce the interest payments or anything like that, maybe a balance transfer. And remember the ways you pay off debt, and that's going to be either the debt snowball, the debt avalanche, or the hybrid method. If you don't know those means, you can Google it, or you can go back and listen to some of our episodes. We're kind of over time, so I don't want to go too deep into those things. But after you get through this debt, I want you to focus on creating a long-term plan and just stay committed to the process.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let this thing that happened to you, don't let the decisions of putting all the bills in your name, of keep taking everything out, of being left by your partner, define who you are. Be a goldfish. Let that stuff pass by. Goldfish is the happiest animal in the world because they only have a memory of 6 seconds or 10 seconds. So it goes away, and now it's me. It's new me, and I just have to. I'm dealing with whatever the situation is. So be like that. Define your financial milestones. Say, like, right now my debt's 40,000. My goal is to get to 30,000 in debt. Celebrate. 20,000. Celebrate. 10. Celebrate. 0 debt. 0 net worth. Celebrate. And then start building it the opposite way and start building up that net worth. This is a time where you need friends, you need family, you need to have people in your life that are there cheering you on, not tearing you down. Because you got left, it hurts. And right now in that hurt, you're trying to make quick decisions that probably aren't the best for you. So in short, I would cover your essentials first. Personally, based off what you said and based off what Dominic said, when it comes towards just the thought of being in a house that I purchased with somebody who was there and then left me, it may be worth looking at unloading the house and eliminating that financial and mental burden that you have on yourself. And if you do that, obviously, before you do that, please consult with a real estate agent, consult with a diverse attorney, do all these things first. But if you do that and you have proceeds left, use that proceeds to tackle those high interest debts, to rebuild your credit slowly over time, to create an emergency fund. This is going to take a long time. This is not going to be a short term, I'm here to there. But eventually, in 20, 30 years, maybe you'll be able to look back at this time and be like, thank God I went through that because it led me to where I am now.
True.
And I know it's hard because you're in it right now and it sucks. I get it. But this is the mountain you're climbing. And when you get to the top, you're going to be able to see that beautiful view.
Well, with that being said, I hope you have the best of luck with your situation. I have no doubt that you'll get through it. And since you've gotten through everything else you've ever had to get through before, it's just tough. It's a tough situation, but saying it's tough doesn't get us any closer to the finish line. So buckle in and let's get through it as quickly as we can and as correctly as we can. So best of luck.
I always like to think of the Jocko Willink, just prioritize and execute. Yeah. That's all you can do. Prioritize, execute over and over and over again until you reach the goal that you had, and then you set a new goal and you keep moving forward. But big hugs from Arizona. Please keep us informed. Let us know what's going on in your life. We believe in you and we're here for you. Know that you're not in this alone. We may not physically be where you are. We don't even know your name, right? I guess we do have your email address, but we're there for you. And I know that there's people physically in your life that are there for you too, especially if you have a place to go. So lean on them.
100%. That being said, best of luck with you.
This video podcast is sponsored by Mons on Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the host and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monsonwealth.com.